And I know you're all about relationships, Lucy. So I was just thinking about our relationship with our brain and how it's sort of the most important relationship we have. And I'm always saying to people, put your brain first. What is more important than our brain health? What defines us more than our brain health? I mean, Sudoku and crosswords are great, but I think there's more to it than that. It is staying stimulated, curious about the world, seeking out novelty. New things really stimulate our brains. And when we're working, that's quite easy to come by. And if we then wind that back, then it becomes more difficult. Doing things we're not good at is really good for the brain. The brain really likes that because it has to work really hard.
Hello and welcome to How to Have Extraordinary Relationships podcast. I am delighted to be here today with very glamorous Susan Saunders, who is a health coach for women over 50 to helping women reduce the risk of dementia. She is also an author. She's written The Power Decade, also Eat Well to Age Well. And she's also a blogger. She has a newsletter. She does lots and lots of things that she's going to talk about today. And at the end, we will give you all the information as to how to contact her and be part of this incredible community. So welcome, Susan, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Lucy. Yeah.
So I came across you really quite some time ago, and I can't remember why, but I remember beginning to read reading everything you're writing and your blogs and your newsletters. And what really struck me about what you're offering is the way you crunch all the science and everything about how to eat well, how to live well. Just can you open up and telling us a bit about that? Because you're a font of knowledge now. I think you really are.
Yes, so 11 years ago, my friend Annabelle Streets and I started writing a blog called The Age Well Project, and that is the title of the first book, The Age Well Project. And we were just really fascinated by all the science and all the reports about aging well, which were coming out. And we were reading all these things in the papers about, drink coffee, you'll live forever. Don't drink coffee, you'll die, all this kind of stuff. And it was we're like, how do we make sense of this? And so we just started to sort of take a deeper dive and research the scientific papers, the studies behind some of these headlines. And they are freely available. It's not that we have some kind of magic code. We do now interview people and talk to scientists and researchers, but essentially a lot of these papers, almost all research papers, are kind of freely available or for a small subscription. So it's really, that information is there. It's how we make sense of it and kind of get past the sensationalist headlines. And our goal was always to think, how can we make this work in our own lives? Because there is all this wonderful research out there, but actually, what do you cook and how do you live and how do you exercise? And at the time we were both kind of busy working mums with relatively young kids. So we were thinking, how can we kind of fit all this in? So that was our mission when it came to, crunching down the science. It's what works in our lives, what's doable. That was always the question.
And it came about originally, I think, because of your mother. Was it because your mother had dementia?
Yeah. So my mum was diagnosed with dementia when I was 36. So I was quite young, relatively, to take on that caring role. I had a toddler and a newborn, and I had absolutely no idea what to do or how to sort of manage this condition. And also, I had watched my mum care for her mum, who also had dementia, when I was a teenager. So I had these two things going on, well, multiple things going on. I had become a carer. I was working full time. I had tiny children. I could see a pattern of the female members of my family, and it was a pattern which I absolutely do not want to continue. So I started looking around for things that I could do, that would make sense, and to find out a little bit more about my risks and what I could do to reduce those risks. And that's the sort of initial kind of output from that was the blog, the Age Well Project, and the book. And then from that point, I thought, this is great, but I really want to do more to help people more directly. So I qualified as a health coach, and then realized that I could focus that down even more on helping people reduce their dementia risk. And so I took an advanced coaching qualification with an American neuroscientist called Dr. Dale Bredesen. And that was really intense. That was a kind of year-long course. It was really, really full-on and scientific and medical and stuff. So I did that. And I also did a certification in habits, because I think habits, sort of habit formation, because that is really important when it comes to dementia, because it's a long-term goal, reducing dementia risk. And it's not like saying, oh, lose 7 pounds by summer. It's we're talking potentially 20, 30 years before you know that it's worked. And so building those long-term habits, I think, is a really important part of the equation when it comes to talking about reducing dementia risk.
Is there a genetic? I don't know anything about dementia. I'm really, a rookie about this. Fortunately, it's not been in my family diagnosed as yet. Is there a genetic component to dementia?
There is a very, very rare genetic element which is inheritable, i.e. it is an inheritable risk. If you've seen the film or read the book Still Alice with Julianne Moore, that is an inheritable dementia, form of dementia. But generally, most of us are not. I'm not going to inherit. I have not inherited dementia from my mum. However, I do carry a gene which increases my risk, which is called ApoE4. Around 20% of the population carry one variant of that gene. So I'm not unique, I'm not rare, I'm not special. A lot of us do have it. It's just that most people don't know. But I have had testing and I know that I carry one variant. Some people carry two, and that increases their risk quite substantially. But again, it's not a diagnosis, it's a risk factor. Smoking is a risk factor. There are lots of things that are risk factors. It's a risk factor, it's not a diagnosis.
So you were saying that you were talking about, or you're interested in telling me about our relationship with our brain. Can you tell us a bit about how important our relationship with our brain is? Because people probably don't think about that very much.
Yeah, no, I think so. And I know you're all about relationships, Lucy. So I was just thinking about our relationship with our brain and how it's sort of the most important relationship we have. And I'm always saying to people, put your brain first. What is more important than our brain health? What defines us more than our brain health? Nothing really. And I think perhaps particularly as women in midlife and beyond, we were kind of raised with the idea that our health correlates with what we look like or the size of our thighs or that kind of thing. But actually, the most important thing we can do for ourselves is to look after the health of our brains. So that's why I think that relationship is so important.
How do we know if our brain is healthy or not healthy? Or maybe we don't know.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Okay, I mean, there are two things here. One is that Alzheimer's and related dementias don't happen overnight. You don't catch it. It's not like the flu. It is the end result of 20, 30, 40 years of insults to the brain, kind of things having a go at the brain and destabilizing it in some way. And eventually there is a tipping point, and and then there is a diagnosis. But so we don't necessarily know that that process is happening, and it's very, very hard to test, although there is quite a lot of progress being made in that area, and eventually there will be tests for the kind of pre-version where you don't feel anything, nothing's different, but there are changes happening in the brain. But also, when it comes to a healthy brain, we know that sometimes things don't feel great, and that might manifest itself in brain fog or your memory getting a bit patchy. And a lot of women come to me for health coaching when they say, yeah, I'm sort of forgetting things, I'm slipping, that sort of thing. And it's not that they are on the road to dementia, it's that there are lots of other things going on in terms of their health that need addressing. And actually, when we address them, they feel greater mental clarity. They stop making those slip ups quite so much. So I think often we know, even if we're not necessarily sort of prepared to admit it, or we haven't quite quantified it like this, we kind of know when there are issues with our brain, and they are addressable. And people often say, I'm in perimenopause, I'm having this terrible brain fog, is it Alzheimer's? I have to say, no, it's your brain is going through massive change during the menopausal transition. You're probably really stressed. You may not be looking after yourself very well. And actually, that's the way to address what's happening with your brain, rather than panicking and thinking it must be Alzheimer's, because it's highly unlikely that it is.
What is brain fog?
So that's a really good question. There isn't an official medical definition for it, and some doctors say, look, it isn't a thing, but it's really that feeling of, I can't quite remember things, I feel tired, I feel drained, everything's harder now, which comes often with perimenopause. And as I said, our brain is going through so much during the menopause transition. Estrogen has an incredible role in the brain, and when our levels start to decline, that has a noticeable impact on the brain. So often it is at that point in perimenopause women start to think, what's happening with my brain? And that's it. Menopause is a neurological transition.
I didn't really know that. I mean, a bit. I know that women say, "Oh my God, I've got terrible brain fog," and I've always said, "I wonder what." And everybody thought, "What does that actually mean?" So, in terms of what you've discovered, so yes, in menopause, our brains go like our bodies. So it's not just a body thing. You're saying it's also a brain thing.
It's a brain thing first, really. Yeah, it's certainly not just about our reproductive system.
So women come to you, and what does it mean to be a health coach? What do the coaching relationship, the therapeutic relationship is an interesting one, isn't it?
Yes,
They're coming to you for help, and I imagine answers.
Yes, exactly. And support. I think that's the really key thing with coaching. I'm not a doctor or a nurse, so I'm not giving a diagnosis. I'm not handing out a diet sheet and saying, right, we cook these recipes. It's really supporting people to make sense of the information in their own lives and guiding them along the way. A guide on the side is the expression. And so it's guiding people and supporting them to make change in their own lives and to look after their brains in a sustainable way, which makes sense for them. And every single woman who comes to me is in a different phase of life. They might have quite young children, they might not have children, they might have grown-up children, they might be working big jobs. Quite often women come to me when they have quite big jobs and they're thinking, I really need my brain to be absolutely sharp as anything. I keep going. Sometimes they're retired, and that has an impact on the brain. So at all sorts of points, but it's supporting them to make the lifestyle changes that we know reduce dementia risk. That's really the key to it. You're within the framework of their lives, but making those changes which are linked to better brain health, better outcomes, and reduced dementia risk. Because there is so much research on that now, that we can plug into our own lives and live a more brain healthy life.
So I imagine that women come to, let's say, 40 plus, or they all 50 plus. I mean,
Yeah, most of 50. Yeah, I think just about everyone's 50 plus.
yeah, and I think it's very complicated because all sorts of things happen, don't they? You know, they children are, you know, you've got children maybe leaving the nest, so that's happening, or they're doing exams, that's difficult. Marriages, maybe, you know, they've been married for, you know, blah blah blah. They've maybe got aging parents.
Yeah.
And, you know, then now the cost of living's gone up. I mean, it's really interesting when people say, oh, do you think you're in a, you know, a bit of a pickle because of your menopause? For me, I was like, well, possibly, but there's also about 8,000 other things all going on all at the same time. That seems to be what happens. Do you find that with people? They come, they're like, well, it's complicated because there's so many strands to this.
Yes, exactly. And we are at, we get to a point in midlife when there is so much to manage, and it is a huge period of transition, around the menopause. And as you say, it's not just the hormonal transition, it's all the other things that tend to land at the same time. Often kids leaving the nest, doing exams themselves, going through major transition. Elderly parents, often a lot of women come to me because they are caring for a parent with dementia or have done that relatively recently, and so are managing that, sometimes getting over bereavement as well, and all the impact that has on relationships. So yes, so what I'm helping them do is just find a kind of foundation of good health through all those things, so that they are at least looking after themselves and doing the best for their brains while they navigate all these different things.
So you must hear a lot of people's life stories.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you manage with that? Because you're not, I mean, it's not just, I'm sure it's not just about brain health. I mean, I'm sure that people tell you, and you need to know a lot about their lives to see where they're at, probably.
Yes, absolutely. And people do tell me a lot, and that obviously feeds into the work we do together. But at the same time, I'm very conscious that I'm not a counsellor. I'm not a psychotherapist, and I have to make sure that I don't go beyond the scope of my practice. And I think that's an important part of the relationship, setting those boundaries, that I can't give medical advice, and I can't be a counsellor, but I can help them within the scope of what I do to at least have the best possible health as they deal with these other issues.
So what I know you've crunched a lot of reports and a lot of studies. What are the top bits of advice that you think would work, that really help? I know work's the wrong word, that help. I know there's a lot of, I remember cruciferous vegetables being one, walking. I know walking. So what are the ones that you think these are great? And there's some supplements, I think, that you've also said research has found are pretty good for our brain.
Yeah. I think, yes, for me, the most important thing is to be thinking about your brain, putting your brain first. What does it need? And not letting it just be an afterthought or something you don't think about. So it's sort of shaping a life that that works and does that. Yeah, gosh, most important things. I talk about six pillars of better brain health, essentially, which are diet, exercise, sleep, stress reduction, cognitive engagement, and also the environment in which you are taking care of your brain. So that's your social environment and and the space in which you're taking care of your brain. So sort of within that, gosh, what are the most important things? Yes, I would say to people, start meal planning with the vegetables first. You talked about cruciferous vegetables. Yes, a daily portion of green veg, leafy green veg, and cruciferous vegetables has been shown to reduce dementia risk. Getting lots of veg, brightly coloured vegetables, is really important, which is why I say start meal planning with the veg first, because we tend to kind of think, oh, I've got some chicken in the fridge, or
yes,
it's
that's right, we do.
exactly, or it's pasta night or something. Is that actually, if you start thinking about the veg and where are you getting those brightly coloured vegetables from, it sort of shifts how you think about your meal planning, which I think is really important. Strength training, you mentioned walking. Yes, walking is great, but actually strength training again,
like weights.
Weights, body weight, anything that works those big muscles, correlates with, again, with better brain health, better cognition, less cognitive decline. So anything that that works big muscles, particularly the leg muscles, squats, lunges, walking, anything like that is really important. And also those big muscles soak up glucose, so we don't have such a big insulin response if we when we're eating, and our brains can become insulin resistant, so we don't want that to happen. So we want these big muscles working to soak up the glucose. What else? Stress reduction. I mean, think about stress reduction. A lot of women come to me and they're really stressed, and that because, as we were saying, there is so much going on at sort of midlife, in our 50s. So finding ways to tackle that, finding ways to create a bit of distance from whatever it is that is causing the stress. And that, a lot of that comes back to relationships, and the relationships women are having in midlife, the amount of support they are getting or not getting from the people around them, particularly if they have caring responsibilities. That's all that needs managing and thought and some sense of objectivity, and that's really difficult when you're kind of in the weeds of it. But I do encourage my clients to try and do that, as well as find a kind of stress reduction practice, whatever that might be. If that, yoga, meditation, crochet, whatever it is. It's sort of a two-pronged approach to managing stress. Okay, what else? Sleep, obviously really important for the brain, the kind of cleansing.
Sleep, isn't it?
Sorry?
The tough one, sleep.
Yes, it is tough. And again, it's something that that is impacted by menopause and at midlife. And when you've got all these stressors, it is it is something that goes really quickly. So there's a lot. Essentially, there is a lot that we can be doing and should be doing that is not difficult. It's not some sort of huge radical new thing. It's just combining all these different elements and trying to find a way to live a life that supports brain health.
And I imagine, your mother and your grandmother didn't have that access to any of this sort of thing, did they?
No, I don't think so. Certainly my grandmother wouldn't have done. And even, when my mum was diagnosed just over 21 years ago. So then there really wasn't the amount of information that there is now. Certainly that she knew about, and certainly there wasn't really that much information for me as a carer at that point. So things have moved on a lot, and that's really good, and there is much more support now.
So what were you doing before? Because has this taken over your life now? I mean, is it changed from what you thought it would be when you started off doing Age Well?
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, it started as a blog that we wrote I mean, really sort of for ourselves to keep us on track, and for our friends who were asking about recipes and what were we doing and what were we reading. So yes, I certainly didn't expect it to take off in the way that it did, and certainly didn't expect to get a book deal. I mean, that was amazing. I got a literary agent for the first time in my life at the age of 50, and that was just so exciting, and just such a wonderful, unexpected thing to happen. But yeah, my main career has been in television, so as a TV producer, and a journalist. I started as a journalist a very long time ago, and then moved into TV. So I didn't expect it to take the direction that it has done, and to write 3 books about health and aging well. So it's exciting, and I think we can change what we do, and how we operate, and this kind of midlife switch up is a great thing to kind of be part of, and to do something different, and also to do something which is helpful. I find that satisfying, and I find the coaching relationship very satisfying.
And do you get a lot of feedback from people saying, I feel so much better? Or, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, because you're playing such a role for people, I imagine.
Yeah, it is. That is so satisfying. And what is brilliant is, as I said, I'm really, dementia prevention is, you're looking sort of 20, 30 years down the line. And then when people say, I feel so much clearer now, or I'm not making the slip ups that I used to, I have better mental clarity, I've got better focus, I can concentrate better, all those kind of things. When people are saying things like that, that is immensely satisfying, and a wonderful byproduct, because I can't know whether the sort of dementia prevention has worked. There are no guarantees. We can all do everything, and it doesn't work, or we can all do absolutely nothing and smoke and drink and never exercise and not get dementia. Everyone knows a very elderly person who's lived the most terrible life and is absolutely full of beans and sharp as a tack.
The one that says, my granny smoked 20 Rothmans a day.
Yeah.
She lived, she was 105. Yeah, we all know that.
Exactly. And we're still doing the Times crossword in 7 minutes. And yeah, exactly. So everybody knows those stories. So there are no guarantees either way. We just have to do the best we can. So for me, it is really wonderful when I hear that people are feeling better now and their brains are working better now.
Well, I also imagine if you do those lifestyle changes, diet, we're upping those cruciferous vegetables and coloured vegetables. And we kind of know that about our gut health, don't we? I mean,
Yeah.
not everybody, I mean, most of us are now, because it's become a lot more part of our lives, to have lots of vegetables with lots of different colours. Cognitive function. What can we do with that? Is that Sudokus or crosswords? What are we doing about cognitive function?
I mean, Sudoku and crosswords are great, but I think there's more to it than that. It is staying stimulated, curious about the world, seeking out novelty. New things really stimulate our brains. And when we're working, that's quite easy to come by. And if we then wind that back, then it becomes more difficult. And seeking out novelty, learning new things, learning difficult things, languages, instruments, that sort of thing that really challenge the brain. Doing things which are gritty and difficult actually are really good for the brain. And things like Sudoku and crosswords there's a danger they become repetitive and easy and aren't stimulating. I mean, if you've never done one, then it's great. If you've done it every day for years, it has less of an effect. It's more like a sort of meditation. It's more calming. Doing things we're not good at is really good for the brain. The brain really likes that because it has to work really hard.
That's so hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm learning Greek and it's really difficult. And then I keep thinking, well, I wonder if I was learning Greek at 20, if it would be difficult. Maybe it just is difficult. It's hard to know. Is it difficult because I'm aging? Or is it difficult because it's just difficult? but I was never brilliant at languages. Okay, so we're trying new things, learning new things, and challenging ourselves to do things that are difficult.
Yeah.
So the power decade with your book, which decade, tell me a bit about that. What's the power bit? We're talking 50 to 60, are we?
We're talking the decade after menopause. It's called How to Thrive, the Power Decade, How to Thrive After Menopause. So for the average woman, the moment of menopause, the one day of menopause, actual menopause, happens at 51. And a lot is happening with our health at that point, because those reproductive hormones that we've had forever since puberty have kind of wrapped us up in a lovely cloak to keep us safe and protect us during our childbearing years. And when they decline, that lovely protection disappears, and it's like Mother Nature says, you're on your own, sunshine, off you go. And so you kind of have this moment when you really have to take ownership of your health. And we know that by early mid-60s, the chronic conditions of aging are more likely to kick in, be that heart disease, cognitive decline, arthritis, diabetes, etc. So we have this window of opportunity of about 10 to 15 years to really take ownership of our health. And that was what inspired the book. That's why it's called The Power Decade, because it is our time to power up and make changes to our health, really work out what we need, how we want to be, how we want life to work, and find a way through what is often, can be a difficult time, as we've discussed, and also is sometimes slightly tricky if it's between the empty nest and retirement, and who are you and where are you now and what are you doing, and all those sort of questions feed into that. And it can be and should be a time for adventure and excitement. We've been through the big kind of hormonal roller coaster. We may have an empty nest, we may have built a successful career, we may be winding down a career. It's a time of exploration, and that has to be built on a foundation of good health.
That's so fascinating, because I keep forgetting that I'm 58. And the other day, my accountant was like, well, I imagine that you'll be downsizing your business soon. And I was like, why would I do that? And he said, oh, at your age. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I think I think women of our generation now actually very forwards looking, I think. Do you find that it's kind of like, well, what's the next bit?
Yes, absolutely. And it should be exciting. It should be a new chapter, because having periods and being tied to that sort of hormonal rolling tide, that monthly tide that we've had to deal with for decades, is so debilitating, really. And when it goes, actually, it's really powerful. And I know menopause is very, very difficult for a lot of women, and I don't want to underestimate that. But at the same time, we are in some ways released, and that is really important. But we do need to understand that release comes with potential health difficulties, because those hormones have done a lot to protect our heart and our bones and our metabolic system and all these sort of things, our cardio-metabolic system, all these things. So it's up to us to do the protecting bit now.
So do you find that most women are on HRT? I know we don't need to go to debate about that, but do you find most women are now on HRT to replace the hormones?
Among my clients, no. And I'm actually thinking about events I've been to, talks I've given, no.
Oh, that's interesting. So they're not necessarily turning to that, but what you're promoting, or not promoting, but suggesting and helping people do, is make lifestyle changes that are relatively simple.
Yes. Yes, and I think a lot of this is about awareness, and the reason I wrote the book was that I wanted to talk about how the menopause transition impacts our health going forward. There's a lot talked about perimenopause and symptoms of menopause and that sort of thing, and I was just really fascinated by what happens afterwards and what those hormones have done for us, and what happens when they decline, and you combine that with aging. So it's not, so you can't, what you can't do is say, oh, I'm on HRT, so it's fine, I don't need to worry. You
Right.
still need to look after yourself.
Yes. So what do you look after yourself in that way? Do you get up in the morning and have a barefoot walk and a meditation and then eat some raspberries?
And then eat some what?
Raspberries or something.
Raspberries, yes. I had raspberries this morning,
I
yes.
actually love
Um,
raspberries.
one thing that has been absolutely non-negotiable for me has been getting daylight in the morning, as soon as I can after I get up, and that does so much for us. Most importantly, kick-starting our circadian rhythms, which will help us get sleepy in the evening. So you want to get daily, morning light on your eyeballs first thing, and then that will kick-start a circadian rhythm that 12, 14 hours later will start making you sleepy. So a good night's sleep starts in the morning.
Oh, fascinating. So you get up and go out for a walk, even if it's 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 10 minutes is great. Get up this morning. I took the dog and went for a gentle run for half an hour in the park, and it was lovely. So, yeah, that getting out first thing is really important for me. I don't have breakfast straight away. I try and follow a gentle, time restricted eating pattern where I finish eating by 8 o'clock in the evening. Ideally, it would be earlier, but that doesn't work for my family. And then I will have breakfast by about sort of 10 o'clock. So then I've had about 14 hours of not eating
Yeah. So you're doing
to
some like
digest.
intermittent fasting.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's about sort of 14 hours without eating. And yes, my breakfast almost always includes berries. Today it was raspberries, usually it's blueberries, because they're very brightly coloured fruits. They are full of something called anthocyanins, which have been linked to better brain health. And I say to my clients, the most simple thing you can do is think about your 3 meals a day. Think berries, greens, greens. So can you get a portion of berries in one meal and portions of greens in the other 2 meals if you do nothing else?
People actually have 3 meals a day anymore.
Yeah, most people do actually,
Yeah,
yes.
I haven't had 3 meals a day in a long time. I never have breakfast because I can't bear eating in the morning. It just makes me feel physically sick. So it drives my mother mad. So it's the most important meal of the day, and I just can't. I can't eat until lunchtime. That doesn't matter though, does it?
If you feel good on it, no, it's all about individuals and how you feel and how your blood sugar is, and if you are hungry and wobbly and as a result. I think most women need to have a need to eat within a few hours of getting up. I would say that just to fuel your body. But if you don't feel that you need it, don't do it. You
So
obviously don't.
and so we're also we're getting. So I talk a lot about our relationship with our body. What I don't talk about with people is our relationship with our brains. So that's fascinating. That what you're saying is put your brain first so that
Yeah.
you stay cogent.
Yes. Yeah. So that you love it. We have these big, beautiful brains that make us who we are, that allow us to do the things that we want to do and deal with everything else. And we need to love them and care for them, and you show them how much we appreciate them. And it's quite easy to forget that, I think. So we shouldn't. We should remember it.
So where can people find you and get more information or sign up to the blog? Where can we all find you?
So you can find me at Susan Saunders Health. That's susansaundershealth.com for my website, or at Susan Saunders Health on Instagram, which is where I tend to be most. And the blog and the Age Well Project books are agewellproject.com. You can sign up there for our blog posts, which are only about once a fortnight now. So that's not going to spam your inbox. So agewellproject.com. The first book is the Age Well Project. Then the follow-up was the Age Well Plan, and the Power Decade, How to Thrive After Menopause, is also available. So.
And are you also running groups for people? Because you were doing some webinars, and or you're not doing that now?
Yes, I will be. I've been focusing more on the one-to-one coaching recently, but there's always information about that available. But yes, I will be doing some more group programs too.
Thank you so much for being here today. It's fascinating. It's just a little snippet of everything you know, because I know that because I've had your newsletters for so long. So anyone that's interested, please sign up. Susan really is someone to spend some time hanging out with online. And thank you so much for sharing everything with us today.
Thanks so much, Lucy. I really appreciate it, and I really enjoyed the conversation.